All right, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. Dan, how are you, man?
Good, man. Michigan basketball sucks, but living life, we're good. Michigan won the Big Ten in hockey, which we'll talk about a little bit. But overall, I'm pretty good, man.
Yeah, not the season we were looking at. I don't know. I think we were preseason picked at like 24, AP 24. Unfortunately, just like the start of the year, there wasn't any real credible opponents, and it's really hard to gauge. We've talked about this a few times. The third game of the year, they played Eastern Michigan, and we were at the game. The second game of the year, because the first game is an exhibition. So the second game of the year, we were there. We won by 5 points in a neutral site. And at the time, I think both of us even kind of agreed we didn't take a whole lot away from it because Amani Bates really kind of balled out. And, that next game we played Pittsburgh, and we dominate them. And then it was just downhill from there, losing to Arizona State. There was a loss to number 3 Virginia by 2 points. There was a loss to Kentucky by 4 points. There was a loss to North Carolina by 4 points. Central Michigan at home by 2 points. At Michigan State by 6 points. And at this point, it's like, yeah, we're not beating anybody that's good. Would you agree?
Yeah. And then there was that section that you just hit. I mean, there was a lot of win to, lose to, win to, lose to, win to, lose to, and yeah, that was kind of the narrative there.
Yeah, I mean, in that stretch, so you beat the Ohio Bobcats at home in overtime, right? You beat Jackson State by 10. Jackson State, okay? You beat Minnesota on the road. That's a solid win. Anytime you win a Big Ten road game, I think that's a good day. I don't care who it is. At home, they beat Liskup by 12. Actually, not even 12, by 8. They beat Maryland by what seemed at the time almost like a turning point because they had won by like damn near 40. It was like 35 points. I remember watching that game and thinking to myself, okay, we're good now. We're fine. And then the very next game they beat Penn State. So it's like, okay, things are turning around. And then you lose to Michigan State, you lose at Iowa, you beat Northwestern, you lose at Maryland, the team that you had just slaughtered.
Yeah.
Like you just beat them by 40.
Yeah.
And you lose. So they ended up sweeping Minnesota. And then they lose to Purdue. They lose at Penn State by 20. And like you just said, it was a ton of win 2, lose 2, win 1, lose 1. It's just how the season went. That I think the best win over the course of the entire year, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you agree, home win against Michigan State.
Looking like it, and especially that, Michigan State is continuously winning through the tournament here, playing in the Sweet 16. So as of right now, it's that. And I would say a second, if I would say second, would probably be
at Rutgers.
Maybe at that night at Rutgers or Ohio State. I mean,
Ohio State was horrible.
Yeah, but
I know it's still beating Ohio State.
But no, to be fair, it'd probably be at Rutgers in Wisconsin at home.
Yeah, it's just is what it is. So at this point, we go into the Big Ten tournament. We have a lead in the second half. We lose to Rutgers. You go in the NIT tournament and you beat Toledo. Toledo had a pretty good season. They were 27-7, so you feel decent about that. And then at Vanderbilt, the team pissed away. I think it was a 7-point lead in the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, and loses in the NIT on the road at Vanderbilt. So overall, disappointing season. Absolutely, just like I personally, I lost passion for this team probably at the midway point.
Mm-hmm.
It was different from last season because last season it felt like the team could potentially take a turnaround, but this season didn't feel like that, and it just felt lackluster. Opinions on the season? How are you feeling right now? Do you feel like this was we'll talk about Juwan, but do you think this was just overall just a letdown season? Is this a growing season? We'll talk about key pieces we lose too, but right now I feel very let down.
I feel very let down. I know they lose Caleb Houston and Diabate to the draft, which I didn't think neither of those two should have gone. I mean, they got drafted, which is that was their prerogative. But I thought they could have been huge pieces this year. But
Diabate would have been an absolute dog in this offense this year, I think.
Absolutely, and that if Caleb Houston would have came back, that means Terrence Williams would have seen less of the floor than he already did on the floor for about 26 minutes a game. This was probably Hunter's best overall year in terms of stats. I mean, last year he was 18.5 points a game like it was this year. He grew to 9 rebounds a game and almost 2 blocks per game. So he between rebounds and blocks, he improved. But, point guard play wasn't there, obviously, because Doug McDaniel was fresh. He built a season at the end. So there's promise there. But with how bad it is, it's looking a lot worse because Isaiah Barnes just transferred, and I don't know, if Kobe Buffkin and Jet Howard leave and Dickinson leaves, that our quote unquote big three right there, our season next year is got a lot of question marks, and it makes me nervous of how potentially 2023/24 is going to probably be just as bad, or if not worse.
This team had a very crazy good stretch of point guard play. And is it Deontay Jones last year? Is that his name?
Devontae Jones.
No disrespect to him. And he had a Michigan Wolverine moment at Ohio State without Hunter, where he kind of took that game over last year and got us into the tournament. So he kind of redeemed himself a little bit, but he had a pretty off and on season. But for the most part, this team, after losing Xavier Simpson, had one season of Mike Smith. And not that Mike Smith was bad. I thought he was a great player. That transfer guard came in. He played great. But that team was so loaded. Duncan Robinson, Jordan Poole, Isaiah Livers, Hunter Dickinson. That team was super loaded. So, you almost can't judge Mike Smith off that team because it's just it's unfair. There's NBA players everywhere, right? But Trey Burke, Derek Walton, Xavier Simpson, and Mike's the 1 year of Mike Smith, and then it's kind of gone down. And personally, hate the injury. It sucks. But the injury to, I'm going to butcher his name.
Llewellyn?
Yeah, Llewellyn. If that injury doesn't happen, we probably don't get a development year out of Dougie McDaniels, and we probably needed that. So, I mean, ultimately, if you remember correctly, there was a season in there where Derek Walton and Karis LeVert both got hurt, and it was kind of like a development year for Xavier Simpson. It's sometimes you kind of need that. You know what I mean? It's okay. We might look back on this season almost in a good way. Dougie got some meaningful minutes out there. I personally feel really good about how he looked over the last 8 to 10 games. Where are you at on McDaniel?
Yeah, he definitely grew in himself, and he sometimes the shots fall in, sometimes they don't. Xavier Simpson would do those wacky, inside the free throw line hook shots, and you're like, what the hell is he doing? Oh, it went in. So McDaniel would does like to do the high, he's a shorter point guard, so he's got to throw a high arc over off the glass, or he's got to do a floater. His defense is I guess is serviceable, and he's got to grow into his role. Is he going to be a floor general, or is he going to be a 3-point shooter? I thought he's got promise. If he comes back, I mean, I assume he's back next year or whatever. And if he takes the next step and grows, I mean, I think that is one of the spots at least you don't have to worry about so much. I mean, they have 2 recruits coming in these next 2 classes, or no, they got 2 coming in this class and 1 next. And so this year they'll have Papa Conte as a center, and then they have George Washington, who's a guard. So hopefully they don't lose too many pieces. Otherwise, those guys are going to have to step up early. You'd rather see Jet come back, and let's see Kobe Buffkin maybe return, and that way you can build and mold these guys. But we'll see what happens.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think a lot of people were pretty fed up with this team. I know I was. I know you were. It's like, let me just say this: we're running it back. How do you feel?
The same team?
Running it back. Because really, the only person that's eligible to graduate is Joey Baker, and he's actually, from rumor sounds like he's going to apply for another year. So we run it back. This squad, you add George Washington.
I would be open-minded and on the brink of being optimistic because of continuity and experience. If those guys leave, I don't know if I'm be ready to watch this.
Are you over Hunter Dickinson?
Am I over him?
Yeah.
No, I'd love to have him back for another year. The only thing that I would wish that he would do was stop talking on podcasts like he's, out there hoisting trophies every weekend. So
I see what you mean. I think, to be fair,
just got to back it up.
His freshman year and sophomore year, he had a lot of success.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think in his eyes, he's a pretty proven player. You know what I mean? And this was just a down year for him. And he's a kid that, from the moment he stepped on campus, we thought he was a 1-year rental. And then he's a 2-year rental. And now he's a 3-year rental. And now there's a lot of people speculate that there's a chance he comes back. And senior year Hunter Dickinson, I feel pretty optimistic that could look okay. As you know, going back to the exhibition game to start the year off against Ferris State, I think that night I became Jet Howard's biggest fan. I'm currently looking up how many he had. He had over 30 that night and shot it like unreal. Looking at it right now. So Jet Howard had 30 points. He was 10 of 12, 6 of 8 from 3 in 22 minutes. Like, literally that night, I remember texting him, we might be unreal this year. Like, stupid good. And Kobe Buffkin even added 21 that night. And I know it's Ferris State, and I wasn't trying to overhype it, but it's like, if we have dudes that can legitimately be that good, we're going to be all right. And it never panned out. I do think Kobe Buffkin coming back with Dougie, that feels nice. Pick between the two, Kobe or Jet.
I'm going to stick with, man, that's a tough one. I'm going to go Kobe.
I agree.
Consistent.
You get one of the three, Hunter, Kobe, or Jet.
I would probably take Hunter.
I agree as well. I agree. Especially because it sounds like George Washington could come in and potentially start from day one at the guard spot. And if Kobe comes back, maybe they just move him to the 3 spot. Who knows? But I do think that if this team wants to contend for a championship, Hunter Dickinson feels like the way to do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But let's talk a little Juwan. How much of this season do you put on him? How much of the fact that do you put it on that they only returned to like 4 guys or some shit like that, or 4 or 5 guys? They had one of the biggest turnovers in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
I think they returned. McDaniels was a freshman this year, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they only returned Kobe, Jace, Hunter.
Probably 1 or 2 others.
Oh, Terrence.
No, Terrence is a freshman.
No, Terrence Williams?
Terrence Williams. I thought you said Terrace for Terrace Reed. Sorry.
No, yeah. So I think those are the 4. Like, there wasn't a ton brought back. So it was a very young team. I don't know. I just how much do you put on Juwan?
I'd say he takes on the bulk of it. I do. The easy answer right off the bat, the instant reaction is, fire Juwan. And I was kind of like that towards the tail end there when they were losing games they shouldn't. But stepping back, I think I asked you the question, texting you once. I said, are we looking at this right now, back in like how we did with Jim Harbaugh in 2018. Like, are we judging this fairly? We give him a fair shake of all the bumps and bruises that are not necessarily his fault, you could say, or didn't have control of. And by that I mean, the transfers, kids going to the NBA earlier than expected. You know, um, his seat is definitely hot, but a lot of this too was coaching on how he manages his timeouts. His substitutions were kind of strange, although John Beeline at times would sub package weird stuff too. And then like coaching down the stretch. You can't pray that the ball goes in and expect it to all the time. And they find themselves in cold spells. And he'd also draw up these weird plays at the end of that just didn't work. I think really the only play that looked like it was fairly done up or executed was when Joey Baker airmailed the shot against Illinois or whoever that was.
Yeah.
That was like a beautiful play drawn up. You just got to sink it.
Yeah.
And he felt like he at that point in the game was maybe a little like heating up a little bit. So they're like, all right, Joey, step up. Didn't step up. So his recruiting, the honeymoon phase is well over since he's been at U of M. So they're kind of in the middle of the pack here with these recruiting classes. They're not massive. I know Hunter Dickinson was a big get, but a little underwhelming. I know Caleb Houston was a 5-star, but he was obviously a bust. I don't know, man. I think he takes on a large bulk of this, but then again, it's like I feel like we're just kind of at that spot where we were with Jim Harbaugh. It's like maybe we were calling it quits too soon, and with the attrition, it didn't help. So I think 2023. I think this coming up season, there's no excuses for him.
Yeah, I think just like looking back at John Beeline's time at Michigan, I think it's a fair grade of a program to hit 20 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 20 wins, you're pretty much in the Big Ten, you're pretty much guaranteed into the tournament. Okay. And then everything after that is basically a plus, right? And John Beilein did not take over a juggernaut. All right. He took over a program that the last coach had spent 6 years there, Tommy Amaker, and his best finish was third, 18-12, or they had a 23-11 season where they won the NIT, right? And John Beilein comes in and goes 10-22, then 21-14, makes it the second round. 15-17, a down year, okay? 2010-2011, he goes 21-14, okay? Then 24-10. Then 31-8, which is the special season, Trey Burke, all them. We all remember that season, right?
Yep.
Weirdly enough, they finished fourth in the conference that year. Okay. Then 28-9. Then they had the injury season with Carrots and Derek that I was just talking about a minute ago, where they went 16-16. Those were their two best players, and they both got hurt. Okay.
Yep.
Then they go 23-13, 26-12, 33-8. To a national championship game, they lose, and then 30-17. And Beilein takes off the NBA, and Juwan inherited what I thought to be a fantastic team.
Mm-hmm.
It was obviously they didn't get a chance to run in the tournament because of COVID, but they went 19-12. The following year, 23-5. That team felt dominant, and I remember this so distinctly. I was arguing with people on Twitter and Facebook that Juwan was just doing something that John Beilein had already been doing, right? He took over a team that was already a well-oiled machine and just started to win with them. It wasn't like he was doing something that John hadn't done. And people were like, no, this team hasn't clicked like this. It was during that, I distinctly remember, it was during that beatdown at Villanova, okay? And it's like, ever since that season where they went 23-5, went to the Elite Eight, outside of the tournament run last year, the team was bad last year too. People forget that. But we just sweep it under the rug because we made a Sweet 16. This year was really bad. It was really bad. So Juwan in 4 seasons, 19-12, 23-5, 19-15, 18-16. He can't reach 20 wins.
Yeah.
But because he went to the Elite Eight once in the Sweet 16 last year in a shit season, we're just bailing him out. This year it's the NIT. What's next year? Because right now, if Kobe, Jet, and Hunter leave, I think this team is 18 feels damn near impossible. Would you agree?
Yeah, and real quick with John Beilein is, his recruiting classes. I mean, he put a lot of kids in the NBA in his time.
Oh, absolutely, he did.
And with Michigan, he outside of Glenn Robinson, who was a 5-star, and McGarry, who was a high 4. I mean, a lot of his guys were high 3s, low 4s, and he really transformed them. I mean, like Trey Burke. I mean, outside of Michigan, his best offer for college was probably Butler in Cincinnati, and didn't he win the Naismith and goes on to be Big Ten Player of the Year? So, you just hope that Juwan Howard can, if he's not going to get these high level one and dones, hopefully he can start really, transforming these guys, building them up, growing them. So
you got to do one or the other. You either have to recruit the absolute top tier guys, or you have to develop like an absolute machine. And that's what Beilein was doing. He only had, outside of I think McGarry was 3rd in his class, right? Was that sound right?
Something like that.
Outside of McGarry, he never really recruited these top level, top 5 kids. You just got to develop them. You got to let them sit, and your system's got to be somewhat good. I mean, Michigan, when Beilein was here, there were shooters everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shooting on this roster right now. That's half the problem. The best shooter was Jet, and he was bad on defense, you could argue. So, and that's another thing under, especially the Xavier Simpson Wolverines. Those teams were fantastic defensively.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else on basketball? I know we're just disappointed. We can talk a little March Madness if we're ready to move on. But anything on Michigan?
Yeah, not much. I mean, it's the NIT second round. You don't have to get into the depth with the Vanderbilt game. They obviously played out with Kobe and Jet, so that was a huge downgrade already. And they commit 16 turnovers, and they were, I think, 3 of a million for 3-pointers. It was just not a good showing, and just a very forgettable season. And I'm over it on that term.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about who's remaining in the March Madness bracket. Michigan State. I like to bang on them. I love to hate them. Their campus has been through some hell this year. And in true Izzo form, he's got the number 7 seeded Michigan State Spartans in the Sweet 16. Opinions on that?
Yeah, definitely been a tumultuous, late winter, early spring in terms of the campus with the shooting and everything like that. So, it was nice to see when they came to Ann Arbor, the sharing of the moment between the fan bases, and it was kind of needed after the football season. But it's time Izzo. I'd love to dog him in Michigan State. I think at times he can be a pretty much a crybaby, whiner. But, I mean, he's a hell of a coach. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And right now he's got a team that underperformed during the regular season and playing number 3 Kansas State here, or seed 3 Kansas State in his region. So it's gun blazing right now. I shouldn't use that because I'm not trying to be sensitive there, but balls to the wall. Balls to the wall. Jeez.
Yeah, no, you're good. It wasn't in poor taste. They're the only Big Ten team remaining, which is kind of interesting, which leads me to Purdue. Purdue, the last 3 seasons, has lost to a 13, a 15, and now a 16. What do you do?
Overrated.
Do you fire Painter?
No, I don't fire him.
A 13, a 15, and a 16. It's getting worse. You can't lose to a 17.
Yeah, I think they were in a. I mean, maybe they do fire him, and maybe maybe as a Purdue fan, you're screaming right now and you're saying, yeah, we need to fire him. I think that he's kind of got him. I think maybe this is my opinion. I just think that because that's his alma mater, you play basketball there against the Fab Five. I think that he's in a Pat Fitzgerald Northwestern situation where they don't want to fire him. And I mean, they're putting good teams out there. They're just obviously not performing in the tournament, like equivalent to not performing well in the back end of the football season too. I mean, so I could see from both sides, but I mean, whatever. I mean, it definitely. If I was a Purdue fan, I guess I would be pretty pissed, but I don't think they should, to be honest.
So there's only 2 1 seeds remaining, Alabama and Houston. Is there somebody like that's left in this tournament that you've either picked, or is there somebody that you're kind of rooting for? Where are you at on this March Madness tournament?
Well, outside of the Big Ten, I didn't really watch hoops during the regular season, as I normally really don't.
Yeah.
And what helped that was Michigan's piss poor year too. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
But when I did a tournament, when I filled out my tournament that I didn't pay Tyler for, I kind of ended up having Gonzaga win it all. I don't really have a lot of confidence in them. I just liked how their draw was, and then I put down $5 to win 45 on Alabama because I like their draw right now. I think they're going to destroy San Diego State. And if they get by them, they play Creighton or Princeton. And I think they match up well with those guys. So between those two, I'm pretty confident. I was really confident in Indiana. They fell short to Miami. I didn't trust Miami. I don't ever trust Xavier. And they beat Pittsburgh, which is another team I don't ever trust. And they got to play Texas. So out of all these teams remaining, I'd probably go Gonzaga, Alabama, and then slight third, it might be UCLA.
So a team you didn't mention, our counterpart, Brad, big Texas guy. You know, I follow him on Facebook enough to see him share every time Texas wins. And through the grapevine this year, just from like him sharing stuff, I kind of seen that Texas was beating a lot of really good teams. And it seems like their basketball program, despite some adversity with their head coach and stuff, was just on a tear. I had them losing to Purdue in the championship game, and at this point, I really like their chances to win it all. Yeah. I think they got a really nice team. You know, both for Brad's sake and just, you know, my personal pick, I think Texas has a chance. I would like to see somebody different win. Obviously, like at this point, I think my number one rooting interest is in Princeton, just because it's the Cinderella, you know, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't have too many betting favorites. I'm not rooting for Michigan State, but it is nice that through what they've been through, they've made it this far. I don't foresee them getting too much farther. I could see them beating Kansas State. I don't see them as a Final Four team. Elite Eight's probably their ceiling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Who are they playing if they win?
Tennessee or Florida Atlantic.
Weirdly enough, I mean, holy hell, things are shaping up for them.
Yeah.
But then obviously they'd probably have to go up against Alabama. So, and Alabama has been fantastic this year. I think their first round matchup, Brandon Miller didn't even score and they still won by like 20. So, yeah. Anything else, March Madness?
No, I know one of our questions is pertaining to March Madness, so I'll wait to talk about that. But a lot of upsets this year. I do a lot of low risk, high reward parlays, no matter what the sport is, and because the normal bracket pool that I get into every year, they didn't do it this year, so I was kind of left hanging, and so I had a little extra money to play with, or I tell myself that. And I did some wild, like 10 to 20 leg parlays, and it was all like first round stuff. And I picked all the 1 seeds, all the 2 seeds, a lot of the heavy favorites, and then I'd sprinkle in maybe 1 or 2 upsets. And let's just say, Virginia and Purdue and 1 or 2 others kind of screwed me over. I think one leg I laid down $20 to win 700, and I went 13-2. The two losses I had was Virginia, and what was the other one? Arizona. So like a 1 and 2 seed, and you go ahead and screw me like that. 4 and 2 seed. You want to screw me like that out of $700. So stuff like that. But other than that, man, it's been fun to watch.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit of college hockey tournament. Big Ten tournament's over. Michigan back-to-back wins that one. Has to go on the road at Minnesota and picks up a dub. The tournament is final. There's only, is there 16 teams?
16 teams.
16 teams. The first game, if I'm reading this correctly, is the 23rd, Boston, West Virginia.
Okay.
And then Denver, Cornell.
Western Michigan.
What's that?
Western Michigan.
Did I just say Michigan?
Virginia.
Must be drunk. Boston University versus Western Michigan. Then Denver versus Cornell. Okay. Then you got St. Cloud State. Where's St. Cloud State? Minnesota?
Yep.
Of course. Versus Minnesota State.
Yep.
Okay. Then you got Minnesota versus...
I want to say, I looked this up before we went live. I think it's Canisius, and they are a prep private school in Buffalo, New York.
Interesting. Okay. Harvard versus Ohio State. Fun matchup. Quebec versus Merrimack. Is Merrimack a Canadian school?
Well, it's Quinnipiac, and
when I say Quebec,
yeah, dude, trust me, I'm not good at Canadian names. I only want to crush because I know it. But Merrimack, I'm not sure, to be honest. It's weird because you hear these names and like, dude, that's got to be in like Ontario somewhere, but it's somewhere in like Pennsylvania. But no, I'm not sure where Merrimack is at, to be
it's
honest.
actually in Massachusetts.
There you go.
There it is. Penn State versus Michigan Tech. Michigan typically has a lot of good hockey teams. And then number 3 in the country, Michigan versus Colgate. So Michigan doesn't play till 8:30, and then the winner will play. The winners of those two matchups, Penn State, Michigan Tech, and Michigan Colgate, will play on Sunday, the 26th, right? Do I have that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Yep. So let's talk a little bit Michigan here and what their obstacles are. Colgate. What do you know about Colgate?
Not a whole lot. Colgate is in the tournament because they won their conference championship. They got 6 NCAA appearances and 1 Frozen Four appearance. Last time they were in the last time they were in the tournament, they lost in the first round of Ferris State in 2014. They boast a pretty good goalie, Carter Gillender, with 34 saves and 14 in the third period against Harvard. So they're 19-15. I mean they got a mediocre record, but it doesn't mean that they can pull off an upset. So, Michigan's got to go in there and cross their T's and dot their I's. But to jump ahead just a hair, if I had to choose between to play Penn State or Michigan Tech, I would probably actually pick Penn State, even though we're in Allentown region, which is in Pennsylvania. Given the geographic location and everything like that, being in Penn, I'd rather play them. Michigan Tech boasts one of the best goalies in the country. So I say his name is, this just escaping me. Hold on real quick. Blake Patila. I'm probably butchering his name too. He's only averaging less than 2 goals a game, and he boasts the nation's best 10 shutouts with a 92% save percentage. So, he's obviously going to lock it down between the pipes. So, Michigan's had Penn State's number already. So if I had to say that, I kind of hope that they take on Michigan Tech, and maybe I'll eat my words, or Penn State rather.
So obviously Michigan Tech's a pretty elite hockey program, Division I hockey program. They're part of the Central Collegiate Hockey Association. That's their conference.
That's the one that Michigan used to be part of before the Big Ten was formed.
For hockey?
Yes. So the CCHA that you just mentioned, whatever, there was random collection of teams. And
I was about to say it's just a random. Really about to say it's just a random selection of teams, like Bowling Green, Ohio.
Yeah.
There's no MAC. They're part of this.
Yes, and yeah, and so, but back in the day, or I'll say back in the day, but before the Big Ten was formed, a lot of these teams now, in these outside conferences here, they used to be in the CCHA or vice versa. A lot of teams have moved around once the Big Ten was formed, like I said, and you could go to Bowling Green and watch Michigan play just an hour south of here. But yeah, Alaska Fairbanks, I think Quinnipiac was in it at one point, Omaha, Nebraska. So a few of the first ever hockey games I went to before, I'm like, who in the hell are these teams? And but yeah, Wisconsin, which the third Minnesota school in that is the St. Cloud State. Minnesota and Michigan have great programs throughout the entire state, and Michigan Tech is definitely one of them.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I just learned a little something. Hopefully the audience did too. So you're liking Michigan over Colgate, obviously, right? Is that is that a threat?
Like I said, I don't think any of these teams are bad. Last year I think the first round Michigan played against American International, another team I've never heard of before, and I think they won 5-3. And I could be wrong. I don't know off the top of my head. I think that they won that overtime. I don't think they won in overtime. Anyways, so any team can sneak up on you, so they definitely have to play on their A game. But Colgate can definitely give them a test run.
And then you would like Penn State in that second round. Do you happen to know what the season series is with that or no?
Not off the top of my head. If Michigan, I would say Michigan maybe lost one, but they took care of business every other time. And when I saw them in person, Penn State's a very physical team. But again, I might eat my words, and we'll see what happens. But I'd rather play them we have familiarity, and with Michigan Tech, they just have a really good goaltender, and Michigan's strength is their explosive offense, not so much their defense. And so, yeah, hopefully, they win this whole damn thing.
In a potential Final Four matchup, Michigan versus Ohio State. That's got to be pretty fun, right?
That would be very exciting. A lot of the I want to say two of the analysts that I watched on ESPN when they were doing their bracket breakdown, they liked Harvard winning that side of the bracket and playing Michigan in the Frozen Four
over Quinnipiac, who's 34-3.
Yes, and then they picked I think Boston over Western and that whole side, and then Minnesota. So you'd have Minnesota, Boston, Michigan, and Harvard. That was the consensus between the small panel that I watched. But I mean, Denver won it last year. They're looking to repeat. And Minnesota State was in the Frozen Four last year. Michigan lost to Denver in the semis. So it's going to be a duel, no matter what game out of these you're watching.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to this. Do you happen to see? Oh, here it is. Okay, so the first round starts this Friday and ends on Sunday. So basically, first and second round, and then you get a 1 week break, right? Does that look right, or is that 2 weeks?
I think they get a week and a half or 2 weeks, something like that. Because I remember last
6th and 8th.
Yeah. Yep. I remember taking a vacation last year to Florida, and I was the only guy in the whole entire bar on the beach wanting to watch the Frozen Four. So, and I think that was like mid-April, probably like the first or second week of April. So it definitely, they don't do a turn and burn as fast as basketball.
Yeah. Anything else on Michigan hockey right now until we have some scores settled? Anything else with that?
No, I just want to say that Michigan football is God for me, but Jesus is number two with Michigan hockey. Like them two are like 1A, 1B for me. So watching Michigan hockey on Friday Saturday up in Ann Arbor with some family and friends, go back to back just like football. That was heaven. That was absolute heaven. So love to see it.
Yeah, for me, I think you said this, a couple weeks ago on the pod, and this is my testament in life is like I bleed blue, And if I get to watch Michigan play chess, I'll watch Michigan play chess. Football and basketball are my two top. I've dabbled into baseball and hockey, and when I have a free night and I can watch them, especially in a playoff atmosphere or playing Ohio State, I want to take that time and watch. And it was a great time watching Minnesota the other night at my house, and it's cool because for whatever reason, if Michigan's on and they're playing Ohio State, my son immediately he takes on the identity of his dad is let's beat Ohio State. He doesn't care what the sport is. He's like, oh, we're playing Ohio State, let's beat them. But he was watching that Minnesota game with me the other day, and then my daughter crawled up my arms. We were watching, so all the three of us, and just a great atmosphere having to go on the road and go back to back in opponent territory. So doesn't matter what the sport is, when Michigan's dominating, it's always fun. So, but back to our number ones, football. First off, I didn't start us off with a random topic this week, but I do just have one random question. Are Ohio State fans just absolutely melting down?
If you go on the message boards and go on Twitter, it is absolute bliss to read it. I love it. Absolutely.
What do you think? I don't even want to talk about Ryan Day. What do you think would happen if we beat them a third time? I'm going to be really arrogant here. What do you think is going to happen when we beat them a third time in a row?
There is going to be people giving Ryan Day the absolute business. And if someone gets a hold of his phone number, they are going to be crank calling him, and he'll never be able to sleep. He's going to get death threats. His house is going to get antiqued. It's going to, if people don't know what that means, it's putting plastic silverware and putting flour all over your grass, TPing, egging his house egged. Dude is, the dude's on, it's make it or break it for Ryan Day. At first I was kind of like, you guys got to settle down. You guys have had success, blah, blah, blah. But according to Ohio State fans, it's Cooper come again, which I find adorable and hilarious. But yeah, dude, if I can, I'll put this on Twitter this evening. If I can watch Ohio, like anytime I'm in a bad mood, if I can watch Ohio State fans cry like the way they did in 2022 in Columbus, just inject it right in my blood vessel, dude. It was so goddamn fucking fun.
It's been something else. When Tom Brady left the Patriots, I had to quickly alter how I was talking about the Patriots. The Patriots are 100% still a competitive franchise, but only on a week-to-week basis, not for championships, at least not right now, right? And I can no longer talk about the Patriots as if it's like almost like a for sure thing, like we're 100% going to be back in title contention next year. Like there's certain things that have to happen now for me to see that, to turn a page and almost be able to continue talking like that. That is not the case for Ohio State fans. They still believe they are a tier above us. As a matter of fact, I just read a comment the other day on Twitter. I don't know if it was you that shared it. But basically, they can't be losing to bottom tier teams like us. You know what I mean? And it's just hilarious because if we're the bottom, what are you? Because this bottom's been beating you like a drum for 2 years.
Right.
And it's not just football. It's hockey, it's basketball, it's fucking gymnastics. It's chess. Whatever it is, Michigan seems to be the better program right now. And obviously, there's things that Ohio State is absolutely superior in, and Ohio State's still an absolute juggernaut of a program. But to honestly look yourself in the mirror and say that Michigan's not equal or better at this moment, you're lying to yourself. So
yeah, and real quick too, I give Ohio State fans my respect in the regard of, they're passionate just like you and I are, and they expect the absolute most from their program and their school and the team they root for. That's perfectly fine. And I'm not trying to compare us, on how we react to things, but being a Michigan fan, ever since high school, I mean, it's been a rough one. Like 2003, 2004 on from there, it's been a rough go against Buckeyes. But you know, when they have any sense of adversity, it's just completely over exaggeration and to these extreme levels of whatever comes to mind first. Like 2011, I know we beat them, in a close game at home, but they had a 6-win season, and they were like, even though they had Braxton Miller, he was a freshman, right? They were like by next to Army and the academies in terms of passing efficiency. Like their offense was not great, and they lost a lot. But it was one season, and it was, burn it down, redo everything. And guess what? Next year, because of the sanctions, they weren't able to play in the postseason. They go undefeated. They go 12-0 with Urban Meyer in his first year. And it's like you guys had one taste of losing, and it was all hell, all hands on deck. Which again, I give you credit because that's you want the best for your program. But we've gone through hell for 20 plus years, and we see our team win two years in a row and absolute clapping cheeks. And we have, as fans, as alums, whatever, we have every right to brag boats and talk smack. And then it's, what we always used to get yelled at for and put down. Oh, that's the past. You can't talk about the past. What did you guys do before color television? And it's like we win 2 years in a row, and it's like, well, you guys haven't won a natty since like World War II. It's like, dude, you gotta pick your battles. You guys can't go back on what you guys, you can't be hypocritical. So again, that's the point. That's the part for me that is absolute nirvana, is watching, like, for example, that chick that's on TV, whatever, she's sitting there bawling her eyes out, and I just see Donovan Edwards just up and down 85 yards. It's just like, I can't express the joy that comes into my it's hard to explain, man.
No, I'm with you. What do you got on recruiting? Anything exciting? I know there was kind of a big commit today.
Yeah, so actually, like an hour before we linked up to do this, about 2 hours ago, there was big news. Michigan lands their 7th recruit in the 2024 cycle, and it's 4-star running back Jordan Marshall out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and he's Gatorade Player of the Year in Ohio last year, 34 all-purpose touchdowns. And right there, it's a huge get for Michigan because he's supposed to go to Ohio State. He was crystal balled a million times on Rivals to go to Ohio State. And all I heard after Michigan beat Ohio State, like we just talked about in Columbus, they instantly grabbed 2 commits right after the game. Oh, yeah, but those guys, Cameron Calhoun, Jason Hewlett, they weren't even offered by Ohio State. I'm like, just wait. Count your blessings. Just wait till the dominoes fall. And guess what? In the 2024 class, they go out and get Ted Hammond, which is one of the best tight ends in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the state of Ohio. Go figure. And now they just landed Jordan Marshall in Cincinnati, Ohio. So we're right back in your back door. Michigan football would not be where it'd be today if it wasn't for the Desmond Howards, the Colasars, the Charles Woodsons, right? And so guess what? That guy was supposed to go to your school. Edwards was supposed to go to your school. They don't. They go to Michigan so far with Jordan Marshall, at least in terms of committing. So, go ahead and downplay it all, and I'll be here laughing at you if it works out in my favor, and I'll eat my words if it doesn't. But things are changing, and guess what? All it took was 2 consecutive wins. That's all it took, and kids are starting to see it.
Yeah, so another kid that's definitely on our radar. I know as of right now, we're all in. There's been a lot of quarterbacks that have been talked about over the last year or so with Michigan, and unfortunately, Michigan hasn't really had the success. Definitely not with C.J. Carr or Dante Moore. Dylan Raiola leaves Ohio State, but it doesn't seem like he's interested in Michigan. It's probably either Nebraska or somewhere else. But Jaden Davis, 5-star kid out of North Carolina, seems like he's crystal ball to Michigan. Is that what you're thinking, or when do you think that gets finalized? I don't know what the timeline is on that.
Yeah, this is long awaited. A lot of people are worried that he's actually going to go somewhere else and not choose Michigan because he's taken forever, kind of like the Nicholas Harbor project. But I think Jane Davis is going to be a Michigan Wolverine soon. He's supposed to be committing, I think, here after spring break, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong, but if any Michigan fans follow Sam Webb on Twitter, he's one of the guys from WTKA in Ann Arbor 1050 AM and is one of the recruiting insiders. And he's telling Michigan fans all the time to not worry and not just calm down and let the cards fall. And he talks to Jane Davis's dad all the time. I don't think we have anything to worry about there, but obviously there's still a little worry in the back of my mind, but I think they'll be okay. And I think there's a 5-star quarterback that they have an interest already with from, I think, the 2025 class. So there's options. Dylan Raiola is still up in the air. We've talked about that, I think, last time. But kids are interested. I think the number one edge rusher in the country, I think he's out of Georgia or whatever. I think he's supposed to be visiting Michigan soon. So I know Michigan isn't the program to dish out upfront NIL money. It's more of come and earn it. And, so far it's looking like it's working. And real quick too, Taylor Tatum, he's a 4-star running back out of Texas. He's in the top 100. And according to EJ Holland on Twitter, he reports that Tatum says nothing's changed about his thoughts on Michigan, even with Jordan Marshall committing today. So that's another player that, is keeping his sights on. Michigan's going to be absolutely loaded at running back. So one of these guys we're not going to get. Someone's not going to come because it's so crowded, but at least people are interested.
Are you, when you typically go to recruiting, just to give the listeners an idea, do you use Rivals? Do you use 24/7? Do you use both? What do you usually use?
Well, at first I follow every one of the services on Twitter, and I usually like to go to Rivals. I think correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you know, but I think Scout.com got bought out by Rivals a few years ago, and Scout used to be my favorite. But it's essentially Rivals now. And so I think Rivals is cool. Every one of the recruiting services will have a few outliers that they don't agree on. And so they'll rank them a lot differently. Like one guy will be like, this guy's a low end 5-star, and the other one will be like, he's a high end 4-star. So, stars don't mean everything. We know that, but definitely On3 is a good one, 24/7 Sports and Rivals. But Rivals is probably my number one.
Yeah, Rivals has Jordan Marshall, the running back that committed to Michigan today, as their number 3 running back. There are no 5-stars for the 2024 class, at least not as of now.
Now, because obviously they change all the time. They downgrade and they upgrade. And real quick too, another one. Some people like ESPN. I will say this: what ESPN I think is really accurate on is their top 300, and I think there's a lot of graphics that will get put out there about what programs look like with so many ESPN top 300 guys, and maybe it's 250. I think it's top 300, and like the Georgias and the Alabamas will be like, they got like 15 top 300 guys, and the next Big Ten schools got 5, stuff like that. Yeah. So keep an eye on the top 300 for ESPN too, because those are pretty accurate.
Yeah, a lot of people have been very critical about Michigan's recruiting classes over the last couple of years. Like, that's the one thing that Harbaugh still hasn't quite got under control. As of today, 2024 sits number 5. So It's very distant behind Georgia. Georgia, as far as like the point system, if you want to follow that, Georgia is dominating the field. It's Georgia, LSU, Notre Dame, Florida State, and then Michigan, Clemson, Florida, Wake Forest, weirdly enough, Alabama, South Carolina, and then Ohio State comes in at 12. So, anything else Michigan recruiting before we hit the mailbag and then hit the road?
Yeah, I guess I'll just say this too is a lot of anti-Michigan fans will, obviously use the loss to Georgia, especially, and TCU, as an effect of, bad coaching or not, whatever. But the thing is if you're not the top 3 teams in this country year in, year out, which is usually Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama, and you would used to be Clemson, I guess, is if you're not in those top 3 and you're not getting consistent amount of 5-stars all the time like that, it is so hard to win the national championship game. Ohio State, undoubtedly won the 2014 national championship, right? But they've also been the national championship or the college football playoff and gotten absolutely blown out. Michigan State's been in the playoff before and absolutely got blown out. The disparity is not even keel yet. So if Michigan goes in there and loses in the college football playoff again, we're still getting over that Ohio State hump. So I would, if I'm a Michigan fan, even there's a lot of greener pastures ahead of us. So it's one thing at a time. You got to work on what we talked about last year is beat the teams you're supposed to beat Ohio State, win the national championship. Our season here, to me, is natty or bust. Let's go.
Yeah, you can't even begin to panic if you're an Ohio State fan. I mean, you have too much going. High recruiting classes, explosive offense. Right now, you got to figure out a way to go up in Ann Arbor and beat Michigan. I mean, that seems to be your biggest headache. I mean, you literally went toe-to-toe with the national champions and lost on a field goal that my son would kick on Madden. So it's like it's not – you're pretty damn close. So do you happen to have the mailbag in front of you?
I do.
You wanna hit us with the first question?
Yeah, I asked you a question here on the post.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Actually, two questions, but I'll save those last. We'll get to the people here that chimed in. We'll start with Jamie Lato, obviously longtime listener and one of our closest friends.
Yeah.
Where is the success?
Real quick. Shout out Jamie Lato. I don't know if I've done this on the pod.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to get into personal stuff, but Jamie has been an absolute warrior this year. Again, I don't want to go into his personal business, but shout out to him. Thanks for always listening. Thanks for always writing in. And you're a fucking badass, dude. That's all I got to say. But go ahead.
Absolutely, man. Anyways, yeah. So he asked, where is success/failure line on Michigan football this year?
Bare minimum, you got to beat Michigan State and Ohio State. If you lose either of those, season's a failure. Okay. You gotta win a playoff game. You got to. I think right now losing to Michigan State's not really on my radar. Losing at Happy Valley kind of is. Would you agree?
Yeah, you can't lose Michigan State, and Penn State is definitely another test. Yeah.
Yeah. That is looking to be, as of right now, a top 10 matchup on the road. State College, probably a whiteout if I had to freaking guess. That's on my radar, but obviously being Ohio State, but the playoff game. I mean, I'm kind of chalking Michigan into that spot already. If that's he asked the question, that's why I'm doing it. Like, I think a one-loss Michigan team, depending on who it's to, I think has a chance to get in the playoffs. But regardless, I think the goal needs to be going undefeated again with the roster that we have and the offense that we have. I think that's completely plausible. And you have to – you can't win the national championship unless you're in the national championship game. You got to get there. I posted this on Facebook a while ago. It's like our pursuit for a national championship has to start somewhere, which is why I was excited for spring practice. But at the same time, a pursuit for a national championship, you have to get to the national championship. You know what I mean? Our pursuit for the Big Ten championship, you had to get to the freaking game itself. Beating Ohio State usually is like the automatic bid, and it has been the last 2 years. And I think, that's still the tone. As of right now, this roster, this quarterback, this running game, this offensive line, this defense, this personnel grouping, this head coach, everything that's going with Michigan right now, they are the favorites. They should be the favorites. They should be the betting favorites. They should be favored in every game until we don't know their scheduled opponent. Meaning, let's see who they're playing in the Big Ten championship game, which I believe they should be favored. And then let's see who they're playing in a potential playoff game. But again, I'm sure you agree. You can't win the national championship unless you make it to that game. So. What's your opinion on that, though?
Yeah, so for me, got to be your rivals, which was Michigan State, Penn State. Michigan State, obviously, last year was a huge bloodbath. It was disgusting. It was not what you want to see, and it took an unfortunate tragedy for Michigan and Michigan State fans to come together in a basketball season to finally calm down, and so to speak. And I would love to see another ass whooping on these clowns, and we're gonna have to do an East Lansing. It's gonna be a tough test, but if Jim Harbaugh loses that game, a lot of momentum goes the other way. You got to beat Penn State because Penn State, James Franklin, for some reason, is always compared to Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh, a notch against him, whatever, just widens the gap. And with Ohio State, three-peat would be absolutely awesome. We're right there at the summit in this rivalry to get over to the other side. But I'll put this plainly and bluntly here at the end. For me, 2023 is national championship or bust. 2021 was an unexpected Cinderella, let's say, ending, because it ended with a loss to Georgia, but you know what I mean. It was just an emotional high, and we were kind of happy to be there. Won the Big Ten championship, first since 2004, and get goosebumps talking about it. 2022, this past year, was a business trip, and we fell short of what our goals were, and we tracked, I think, 3 or 4 of those off our boxes, and a few more plays go our way in the TCU game. Who knows what happens against Georgia? We don't know. So for me, that's where I'm at. Second question comes from Jennifer Fisher. Thank you, Jen, for writing in. Long-time listener. Which upset, according to I'm assuming this is the NCAA March Madness, which upset has been the most surprising?
I mean, it's only happened twice in the history of college basketball, where a 16 seed beats a 1.
Yeah.
So is it Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue? I mean, that's, first off, I personally picked Purdue to win the whole thing. Yeah. So not only was it a 1 seed, I thought they were one of the better teams in the entire field.
Yeah.
And I just really thought they were built the right way. They had shooters. They had, obviously, the 7-10 freaking Edie. It just felt like they were ready to make a strong run, and they lose in that sense. The other one, Princeton beat, who did Princeton beat?
Arizona.
Arizona, seems like they've been a basketball school pretty much my entire life. And the last couple of years, anytime they've been remotely good, they just haven't had enough to get it down to the wire, and they lose to a 15 seed. So I think those are the two that come to mind. Kind of a shocking team, though. I'll put them over again. I think Michigan State's been kind of shocking, just for the fact that they really didn't have the greatest season. I mean, we beat them, but here they are in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, so for me, it was I wrote down 2 as well, like Fairleigh Dickinson over Purdue. That was, to me, the most surprising. A lot of shock value there. Didn't think that was going to happen. And this next one was more of just based on how the game ended in a single play, and that was the Furman over Virginia. And Virginia, speaking of 1-16, Virginia was the first 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed like 5 years ago. And this ending of the game was absolutely wild. Kevin Harlan and Stan Van Gundy are kind of like Joe Rogan at the fights. They're like, what, doing this. And just the boneheaded inbounds played, intercepted, and then the 3 goes in. That was like just bang, bang. And that was just like, holy cow, So that would be the ones for me.
As soon as the ball was intercepted, it felt very Jordan Poole.
Oh, yeah.
Caught it mid-court, thrown to the corner, and then nothing but net.
Yeah, and when you're on the losing end of that, like for me, it was kind of you could maybe I'd say App State 07 or the 2015 Pump Block Michigan State game. Like when you're on the losing end of that, you're just in such awe and shock. You're like, this isn't the end of the game, is it? There's a penalty flag. There's a timeout.
Yeah. The thing that hurts the most about that is it wasn't Furman's possession. It was Virginia's. They threw the ball away. It's like all you had to do is hold it, and you probably win that game. But it's tough.
So yeah, after those two, it was basically what I asked, and so we kind of see here. All right, so Juwan Howard, hot seat, panic button. I already kind of went about me. How's it about you?
Yeah, see, I'm not sure I talked about that. As of right now, I'm going to do the same thing I did with Jim Harbaugh. I feel like I was one of the last ones, and probably I shouldn't have been because there was more evidence that Harbaugh should be fired. But I'm gonna leave Juwan alone. I think I've said this on the pod. I know I've said this to other people. I am a sucker for anybody that wants to coach Michigan. I didn't want Brady Hoke to be fired because it felt like he wanted, like, if you gave the man one job in the entire country, you get to pick any job in the entire world. It felt like Brady Hoke wanted to coach Michigan. So I was a sucker for that. And it feels like that's where Juwan's at. And maybe that's just because his boys are there. I don't really know. It feels genuine to me. It feels like he's the right guy for the job. It just got to get there. Got to get a turning point, as you alluded to. And I kind of, piggybacked. Recruit better or develop or both. It's got to be one of the two. Those are the only clear success plans, in college basketball. Like, it's clear cut. You either develop and win or you recruit and win. Like, there's no in between. There's just really in between. So that's right.
So to piggyback off that real quick, what are two things that fans want to see with their teams? You want to be good, and you want to be good for as long as possible, and
you want to beat your rivals.
And you want to be rivals, but to me, you want to be good. You want to be good for a while, right? Yeah. You want every football NFL fan or whatever. We all want the Patriots dynasty. We all want to win.
Yeah. Sustained excellence.
Absolutely. So, when you get a guy that wants to be there too, like, you hope the rest comes with it as well. And like guys like Lincoln Riley and Lane Kiffin, like those are good offensive minds, good coaches, but like, how long do you get them for? If those guys were on the job market, like, sure, it'd be cool to give us a spark in recruiting and put us on a pedestal somewhere. But I want a guy that's going to be here, basketball, football, whatever, and it's going to, have sustainability and whatnot. So hopefully, Juwan Howard gets that turnaround. So the last question, another one for me, is I kind of answered this earlier. You didn't. Who starts for center for Michigan next year?
Yeah, I think it's Hunter, but if it's not, Terrace Reed is ready to take on that spot. And the one thing that's kind of irritating, and we talked about this like 3 pods ago, maybe it was just last pod, I don't remember. It feels like a long time ago. I just thought that Michigan needed to do something prior to the tournament to kind of get on a run. If you remember that 2013 team, they started the pick and roll with Trey and Mitch McGary, and they kind of made that move. And Mitch McGary went on what was basically a very, very, very elite run, right? And I just thought that maybe that looked like Terrace Reed and Hunter playing next to each other. And maybe it's lack of depth. Maybe it's, fear of getting those guys in foul trouble and having to play small ball. But there were just things that I thought Michigan could do better. And I wonder what that lineup could look like. But yeah, I feel good whoever it is, but I would love a 4th year of Hunter. I just think it would just be nice to have a player of his caliber start and play 4 years. I mean, Xavier did. I love Xavier Simpson. He wasn't elite from day one. Hunter arguably was, but I hope Hunter comes back.
And so that's it for the mailbag. Appreciate you guys writing in. And real quick too, I forgot to, in the recruiting segment, I mentioned that Michigan landed Brandon Hillman. We talked about it last time.
Oh yeah,
how we offered him, and he chose, I guess, Michigan over Ohio State, and he was. I think last week I said he was the number 1 athlete or number 4 in the state or something like that. So, and he instantly, I guess, becomes the highest rated player in the 2023 class. So he's literally able to play this year. And with him committing, or signing and then recommitting to Michigan after leaving Notre Dame, so I don't know, far into the offseason here, it's probably going to be on campus over the summer. But it's a hell of a get, man. And again, Michigan fans, we talked about earlier, like Michigan, we had a little bit of a lackluster recruiting class, or some say, but with this transfer portal and a little late additions here, I think we're going to be just fine for this rotation.
Yeah, I literally can't wait for football season. And which reminds me, now that basketball season's kind of done, I'm sure we'll have probably one more pod around the end of hockey, which is early April, and then right after that's done, we'll probably start this summer mini series of the 21 best Michigan games in the Jim Harbaugh era. Cannot wait for that.
I'm literally thinking about that every night.
What's that?
I'm literally thinking about that every night, dude.
Good. Yeah, I'm very excited. For those that are still with us here as we talk about this, like, we're so excited about this. We're already talking about the next categories that we can do. We're very hyped for this. So I hope you guys are really excited for this too. And we're going to put it out on every platform we have. And yeah, so I think that's it from me. Anything else from you?
I'm good, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you guys are digging what we're doing. Me and Brad are back tomorrow. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, it'll be today for probably a super long pod too, talking all your NFL news and notes and lots to cover. We haven't podded in several weeks, so join us back tomorrow and catch me and Dan next time we do another pod, which will probably be beginning of April. So see you guys later, and go Blue.
Go Blue.
Real talk.